Hello and welcome back to the Deep Dive. If you're a UPSC aspirant, you're in the right place for our daily current affairs analysis. This is part 1 for April 20th, 2025.
That's right. We're aiming to pull out the crucial insights you'll need for your preparation.
And you might recognize a few of these topics, think of it as good revision, really helps cement the knowledge.
Definitely. Today we're covering quite a range.
Yeah, I've got Article 142, root rot disease, the Tapi River, SMT.
Surface mount technology, right. Then the huge Huajiang Grand Canyon Bridge, the Mahadev Koli tribe, the NISAR mission.
UNSC reforms, always important. UNESCO's Memory of the World, and finishing with jumping genes.
So a diverse set, but all relevant. Understanding these is really key for the exam.
Absolutely. Let's dive in. Article 142 first.
Let's. It's been in the news, especially after the Vice President's strong comments, calling it a nuclear missile against democratic forces.
Wow, that's quite a statement. What prompted that? The Tamil Nadu governor case.
Exactly. It really throws the spotlight on its power. Essentially, Article 142 gives the Supreme Court the power to pass orders needed for, well, complete justice in any case before it.
Complete justice. That sounds quite broad. Goes beyond just like the strict legal interpretation.
It does. It lets the court look past technicalities, fill legislative gaps sometimes, and even potentially override existing laws, temporarily, of course.
Override laws?
In specific situations, yes. The idea is to uphold constitutional values, protect fundamental rights, promote social welfare, ensure real justice is done.
And this power is unique to the Supreme Court.
Yes, the Constitution framers, especially Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, very deliberately gave this extraordinary power only to the apex court. It wasn't an accident.
So it's intended as a kind of ultimate safeguard.
Precisely. It strengthens democracy, protects minorities, ensures equal treatment, acts as a check on the executive and legislature. It also fosters judicial innovation, setting guidelines in new areas, especially public interest cases.
Okay, but the Vice President's nuclear missile comment, that points to the potential downside, right? The risks.
Absolutely. That's the crux of the debate. Because complete justice isn't clearly defined, it leaves room for interpretation, subjectivity, perhaps.
Which could lead to concerns about consistency, or maybe judicial overreach.
Exactly. The worry is it might impact the separation of powers, which is, part of the basic structure doctrine. So there's this tension.
Right. So just quickly, what defines it, what makes it unique, and can it really override laws? Sum that up.
Okay. Definition. Supreme Court power for complete justice. Uniqueness. Its broad discretionary nature, even to fill gaps or sidestep laws temporarily. Overriding laws, yes, temporarily, in specific cases for complete justice, but it doesn't permanently change the law itself.
Got it. Okay, let's switch gears completely. Root rot disease, affecting jasmine farmers in Tamil Nadu.
Yes, the Pichipu red jasmine farmers in Tiruchi, it's causing significant losses, a really serious agricultural problem.
So what exactly is root rot?
It's basically an attack on the plant's roots. They start to decay, which leads to wilting, and eventually the plant dies. It can even affect the trunk and stems, cause splits. Seedlings are very vulnerable too.
And what causes it? Is it just one thing?
It's usually two main factors working together. First, overwatering or poor drainage. Soggy soil means roots don't get enough oxygen, they weaken.
Making them vulnerable.
Exactly, vulnerable to the second factor, fungal or umicete pathogens in the soil. Things like armillaria, fusarium, pythium, phytophthora. Nasty stuff.
And I guess if the soil is soggy, these things spread easily.
That's the problem. The pathogens move through the water in the soil, infecting nearby healthy plants. It can spread quite quickly in a field.
So for UPSC aspirants thinking about agricultural policy, what are the typical prevention or control measures?
Well, prevention is really key. Good drainage is number one, maybe raised beds. Using resistant plant varieties like grafted ones can help too.
But if it's already there?
Then you have to remove and destroy the infected plants to stop the spread. There are also fungal treatments for the soil, chemical ones, but you always need to consider the cost and sustainability of those.
Right, a multi-pronged approach. Okay, moving on. The Tapi River. There was some tragic news recently involving it in Surat, which brings its importance into focus.
Yes, a very sad incident. The Tapi, or Takti, is a major river in central India. It's one of the big 3 peninsular rivers flowing east to west.
Along with the Narmada and the Mahi.
Correct. It starts in Madhya Pradesh in the Golwalgar Hills, flows through Maharashtra, that's where most of its basin is, and then into Gujarat, finally reaching the Gulf of Kampat.
How long is it? And does it cover a large area?
It's about 700 kilometers long. And the basin area is significant, around 65,000 square kilometers, which is roughly 2% of India's total area. The last 50-odd kilometers are tidal, navigable for small boats.
And its course.
It flows between spurs of the Satpura Range across the Jalgaon Plateau and then through the Surat Plains before meeting the sea.
Does it have a sort of geographical significance beyond just being a river?
It does. It runs parallel to the Narmada, which is to its north, with the Satpura Range in between. Together, they form a kind of natural boundary between northern and peninsular India.
Any major tributaries or projects on it?
Yes, the main tributaries join from the south in Maharashtra, the Purna, Girna, Panjra, and very importantly, there's the Ukai Dam hydroelectric project on the river, vital for power and water.
Okay, quick facts check. Origin, endpoint, major dam, length.
Origin, Wilgar Hills, MP, endpoint, Gulf of Kambhat near Surat, Gujarat Dam, Ukai Dam length, approximately 700 kilometers.
Great. Now technology. VVDN Technologies launching a new SMT line and general growth in electronics manufacturing in India.
Yes, that's big news. The ministry highlighted a 5-fold increase in electronics manufacturing over the last decade, exceeding Rs 11 lakh crore. VVDN's new surface mount technology SMT line fits right into that growth story.
So what is SMT exactly? How does it work?
It's a manufacturing method where electronic components, SMDs, surface-mounted devices, are placed directly onto the surface of a printed circuit board, a PCB.
Unlike the older way.
Right. Unlike the older through-hole technology, THT, where component leads went through holes in the board, SMT allows for much smaller, denser, more efficient designs. And it's more economical for mass production, much easier to automate.
Can you walk us through the basic process?
Sure. First, solder paste is applied to specific pads on the PCB. Then, machines place the tiny components onto the paste. The board goes through a reflow oven, melting the solder to create the connection.
Soldering.
Yes, reflow soldering is common. Sometimes wave soldering for specific parts, then usually cleaning. It's used everywhere now: phones, laptops, medical devices, aerospace.
So, compared to the old through-hole method, what are the main pros and cons?
Pros for SMT. Generally cheaper production, much higher component density, better electrical performance because the connections are shorter. Well, the initial setup cost for SMT lines can be higher, and sometimes repairing SMT boards can be trickier than THT.
But faster to produce overall.
Generally, yes. No need to drill holes saves time and labor. Solder paste mounting is quicker. And it's crucial for microelectronics, making things smaller and packing more power in.
Okay, quick recap. SMT definition. Main soldering technique example. Key advantage over THT.
SMT mounting components directly on the PCB surface. Soldering. Reflow soldering is a key one. Advantage. Higher component density and often lower production costs compared to THT.
Right. No, for something massive, literally. China's Huajiang Grand Canyon Bridge, said to be the world's highest.
That's right. An incredible engineering project in Zhenfeng County, Guizhou Province. Guizhou is already famous for its super tall bridges. Many of the world's highest are there.
Just how high are we talking?
An astounding 625 meters, that's over 2,000 feet above the Baipan River, much taller than the Eiffel Tower, significantly higher than the previous record holder, the Millau Viaduct in France.
Wow. And what kind of bridge is it?
It's a steel truss suspension bridge. Total length is nearly 2,900 meters, and the steel structure weighs around 22,000 tons, like 3 Eiffel Towers worth of steel.
Incredible scale. How long did it take? And why build it there?
Construction took about 3.5 years, started early 2022, costs around Rs 2,200 crore. Its purpose is strategic. It's part of the Shantou-Kunming Expressway. It'll cut the travel time across that massive canyon from about an hour down to just 2 minutes.
Game changer for transport there. So location, type, height?
Location, Zhenfeng County, Guizhou, China. Type, steel truss suspension bridge. Height, 625 meters above the river.
Okay. Now let's shift to a sociocultural topic. The Mahadev Koli tribe and their traditional knowledge.
Yes, a recent study highlighted their valuable medicinal and ecological knowledge, suggesting it could even contribute to global climate resilience. They're a subcaste of the Koli community.
Found where, mainly?
Primarily in Maharashtra, especially in the Mahadev Hills region, Pune, Ahmednagar, Nasik districts, and also in Goa. They're classified as a scheduled tribe.
Tell us a bit about them. Language, social structure, lifestyle.
They speak Marathi, use the Devanagari script. Socially, they have 24 exogamous clans, meaning they marry outside their clan and use those clan names as surnames. Their diet is based on local grains like rice, nagli, varai.
And besides farming?
They also do cattle rearing, dairy, poultry, sometimes wage labor. Culturally, they follow Hindu traditions, often with specific deities for each clan.
And the study focused on their plant knowledge.
Exactly. They have extensive traditional knowledge, using over 50 native tree species for medicinal purposes. It's a deep understanding of their local ecosystem, potentially very valuable.
Is there a famous historical figure linked to them? Tanaji Molisari.
Yes, Tanaji Molisari, the celebrated general of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, he belonged to the Mahadev Koli community and is revered for his bravery, especially in the Battle of Sinhagad, a very important figure in their history.
Key facts. Main states. Community of Tanaji Molisari.
Main states. Maharashtra and Goa. Tanaji Molisari belonged to the Mahadev Koli community.
All right, back to space. The NISAR mission, launching June 2025.
That's the schedule. NISAR stands for NASA-ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar. It's a major joint Earth observation mission between NASA and ISRO based on a 2014 agreement. Really the first big radar collaboration like this.
Launching from India.
Yes, from Satish Dhawan Spit Center in Andhra Pradesh on ISRO's GSLV Mk2 rocket.
And what's its main goal? What will it study?
It's incredibly ambitious. It aims to map the entire Earth's land and ice surface every 12 days.
Every 12 days. That's amazing.
It is. It allows for very frequent, precise observation of ecosystem changes, ice sheet dynamics, vegetation, sea level rise, groundwater, also natural hazards like earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, landslides.
What are some of the key technologies on board?
Well, there's advanced thermal blanketing to keep temperatures stable. The main instrument is obviously the radar payload, and the spacecraft bus handles power, communication, navigation.
But the really unique part is the radar system itself, right? Dual frequency.
Exactly. That's the technological leap. It's the first satellite with both L-band radar from NASA and S-band radar from ISRO working together.
Why two different bands? What do they do differently?
Good question. The L-band have a longer wavelength, so it can penetrate forests and even soil to some extent. Great for looking at vegetation biomass, soil moisture, and ground deformation from quakes or volcanoes.
And the S-band.
S-band has a shorter wavelength, giving higher resolution surface imaging. Better for mapping urban areas, agriculture, terrain details. Plus, it has this huge 12-meter reflector antenna to focus the signals.
Impressive tech. Yeah. Okay, quick check. Full name and purpose. Radar types.
Full name, NASA ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar, NISAR. Purpose, Joint Earth Observation, studying surface changes and natural hazards. Radars, dual-band synthetic aperture radar L-band, NASA, and S-band, ISRO.
Moving to international relations now, UNSC reforms and Kuwait supporting India's bid.
Yes, Kuwait's representative affirmed India as a strong contender for an expanded Security Council. It highlights the ongoing debate about reforming the UNSC.
Remind us, what is the UNSC's main job?
It's the principal UN body responsible for maintaining international peace and security. Its decisions are binding on all UN member states. It determines threats, recommends settlements, imposes sanctions, can authorize military action.
And its structure, the P5 and the rest.
Right. 15 members total. 5 are permanent members, the P5. China, France, Russia, UK, USA. They have veto power. The other 10 are non-permanent members, elected for 2-year terms based on geographical representation.
And India is part of the G4 pushing for change.
Yes, India, Brazil, Germany, and Japan, the G4, are key proponents of reform. They argue the current structure is outdated, doesn't reflect today's world.
What kind of changes are they proposing?
Generally, expanding the council to maybe 25 or 26 members. That would include more permanent members. They propose 11 total, and more non-permanent ones, maybe 14 or 15. India recently reiterated at the IGN talks that the current setup just isn't fit for purpose anymore.
Okay, basics. UNSC definition. Membership. The P5.
Definition. UN organ for international peace and security. Membership. 15 total. 5 permanent. P5. 10 non-permanent. P5, China, France, Russia, UK, USA.
Now, cultural heritage. UNESCO's Memory of the World program. Some Indian additions.
Yes, big news for India's heritage. In 2025, manuscripts of the Bhagavad Gita and Varada's Natya were added to the Memory of the World, or MOW, register.
What's the main aim of this MOW program?
It was launched by UNESCO back in 1992. The goal is to safeguard global documentary heritage manuscripts, oral traditions, audio-visual stuff, archives basically, fighting against collective amnesia, ensuring these important records aren't lost.
So it's about preservation and access.
Exactly. Preserve, protect, and make accessible globally significant documents while respecting cultural practices.
And this register. It's a big list.
It is. It's updated every couple of years.
Yeah.
Currently has 570 entries. Includes things like Sri Lanka's Mahavamsa, the Auschwitz trial recordings, Bangabandhu's speech, a real wealth of global memory.
How many Indian entries are there now?
With these 2 new additions, India now has 13 inscriptions on the register. Some are joint submissions, like the Non-Aligned Movement archives. Others include the Rig Veda manuscripts from 2007, Abhinavagupta's works from 2023.
And the 2 new ones, not just Shastra and Bhagavad Gita, where are they kept?
Both are preserved at the Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute in Pune, a fantastic recognition for them.
Quick recap. MoW Program AIM, launch year. Example, Indian entry.
AIM, preserve and provide access to globally significant documentary heritage. Launch, 1992. Example, Rig Veda manuscripts.
Okay, our final topic, and it's a fascinating one from biology, jumping genes and Alzheimer's.
Yes, recent research is suggesting a link between the activation of transposons, these jumping genes, and how Alzheimer's disease progresses. It's quite cutting-edge stuff.
So what exactly are jumping genes?
They're mobile bits of DNA that can actually move around within the genome. Discovered by Barbara McClintock, she won a Nobel Prize for it back in '83.
And they're common in our DNA.
Surprisingly common. Almost half the human genome is made up of them. Most are inactive now, but some can still jump, potentially causing instability, especially a type called line 1 retrotransposons.
How do they jump?
They use an RNA intermediate and an enzyme called reverse transcriptase to make a DNA copy that then inserts somewhere else.
And what normally stops them? And what happens in Alzheimer's, potentially?
Normally, epigenetic controls keep them in check. But these controls seem to weaken with age, and especially in neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. So these transposons might get reactivated in brain cells.
And if they start jumping around in brain cells?
Yeah.
That sounds bad.
It could be, yes. They might insert into important genes, disrupt DNA sequences, cause damage. Neurons are particularly vulnerable because they don't divide, so repair options are limited.
You mentioned experimental evidence. Fruit flies. Human trials.
Right. In fruit fly models of Alzheimer's, blocking transposon activity with an HIV drug, 3-TC, which inhibits reverse transcriptase, actually improved neural function.
Interesting. And the human trial.
A small human trial using 3-TC didn't directly improve memory, but it did reduce levels of neurofilament light, NFL, which is a marker for neuron damage. So it might be protecting neurons even if it didn't reverse symptoms in that specific trial.
So this points to a different way of thinking about Alzheimer's, not just protein clumps.
Potentially, yes. The emerging idea is that maybe Alzheimer's isn't just about amyloid and tau proteins. Maybe genomic instability caused by these reactivated jumping genes is another key factor. It opens up new research avenues, new potential drug targets.
Fascinating. So, final check, jumping genes definition. Discoverer, broader impact.
Definition: mobile genetic elements that move within the genome. Discoverer, Barbara McClintock. Broader impact: they drive genetic diversity, genome evolution, but can also trigger diseases by disrupting genes.
And that wraps up our deep dive for April 20th, 2025, Part 1.
Yeah.
Hopefully that was useful for all you UPSC aspirants listening.
We really encourage you to think about how these topics connect. Constitutional law, agriculture, tech, geopolitics, culture, biology. It's all interlinked.
Yeah, consider the bigger picture. How does Article 142 impact governance? What policies can help farmers facing things like root rot? How does India's UNSC stance fit its global role?
These issues don't stand still. Keep thinking about how they might evolve and what impacts they could have down the line. That analytical skill is crucial.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in. If you found this helpful for your UPSC journey, please do give us a like and subscribe to the deep dive so you don't miss future analyses.
Until next time, keep digging deeper.